of sell. This right here is the entire game at the top. Buy assets, borrow against them, never sell, repeat. The system has a VIP lane, and the toll to enter it is having so much money you don't actually need the lane. Quick gut check before we climb higher. Pause this for 1 second and actually picture your own number. Everything you own minus everything you owe. Got it? Hold on to it, because where you land changes everything about the next level, and most people guess way, way too high. The strange truth of level 2 is that the shift is almost entirely silent. A typical millionaire is mostly home equity and a 401k invisible at the grocery store. The cashier does not care. The different treatment all happens behind closed doors, at loan desks and advisor offices in rooms most people never walk into. The world doesn't treat you like royalty at $1 million. It just quietly stops charging you the poor person tax. And if that sounds anticlimactic, hold on. Because the third level is where this gets genuinely psychologically weird. Forget the number for a second, because you already know the feeling this level is about. You've fantasized about it. It's the moment your boss says something unreasonable, and instead of swallowing it, you get to lean back and think, I do not actually need this job. That's it. That's the whole thing. The third line, somewhere between $5 and $10 million, has an unofficial, slightly profane nickname that I'll politely call freedom money. And the power of it isn't quitting, it's that everyone around you can sense you could. Run the math and you'll see why this is the line. $5 million at that same 4% generates about $200,000 a year without you lifting a finger. For most households, that's not retire someday. That's work is optional today, permanently. And the thing nobody warns you about is how that changes the way people treat you while you stay. You negotiate from total calm. You can't be pressured, can't be leveraged, can't be scared with the threat of a layoff. And weirdly, that earns you more respect, not less. Nothing turns a room toward you like the quiet confidence of someone who genuinely needs nothing from it. This is also where the financial system rolls out the actual red carpet, the velvet rope, invitation-only stuff. The real JP Morgan private bank wants a minimum of $10 million in investable assets. Goldman Sachs's private wealth arm is right around the same, with a median client account near $55 million. And if you want to feel genuinely small, there are firms with an ultra tier built for families worth $200 million and up. There is somewhere an entire team of brilliant professionals whose only job is managing money for people richer than your whole town. You will never meet them. They are not for you. I just think you should know the room exists. Only about 1.6% of American households even crack 10 million, so if you get here, you are statistically a rounding error in the best possible way. But now I have to tell you about the dark side of level 3, because this is the part the gurus posing next to rented Lamborghinis will never mention. At this level, people start treating you differently, and not all of it is good. There's an actual clinical term for what happens to people who come into serious money fast. It's called sudden wealth syndrome. Guilt, paranoia, isolation, a strange decision paralysis. And one of its best documented symptoms is that the second word gets out, people materialize. Old friends who suddenly remember your birthday, a cousin you last saw at a funeral in 2014 who now has a can't-miss opportunity in vending machines. Salesmen, advisors, charities, all deluging you the instant they smell it. The phrase people use is that the relatives come out of the woodwork, and anyone who's lived even a tiny version of it knows exactly how that feels. We've actually got a natural experiment for this, and it's lottery winners. A study of thousands of Florida winners found that a windfall of 50 to 150 grand didn't save people from bankruptcy, it just delayed it. They went broke within a few years at the same rate, sometimes a higher rate, as people who won almost nothing. And the money didn't fix the math of their lives, it just bought a longer runway before the same crash. You've heard the same cautionary tales about pro athletes. Those exact numbers are honestly disputed, so I won't pretend they're gospel, but the underlying pattern is rock solid. A huge pile of money dropped onto a life that wasn't built to hold it tends to leak right out the bottom. And then there's the part that has nothing to do with money at all. Resentment? Psychologists sometimes call it crab bucket mentality. Put a bunch of crabs in a bucket, and any crab that tries to climb out gets dragged right back down by the others. Not out of malice exactly, like just instinct. And people do this too. The moment you visibly start winning, some of the folks closest to you will, often without even realizing it, try to pull you back to where they are because your rise quietly indicts their standing still. It shows up everywhere across cultures, like the Japanese say the nail that sticks out gets hammered down. So you end up in this lonely paradox. The same wealth that earns you respect from strangers can cost you ease with the people who knew you before. Financial freedom sometimes shows up holding hands with the loss of your freedom to fully trust anyone. Which brings me to that fourth thing I promised you, the reason none of these levels ever feels like enough. You'd think that somewhere up this ladder there's a step marked enough, where you finally exhale. There isn't, because the bar runs with you. Charles Schwab surveys Americans every year on what net worth makes a person wealthy, and the number just keeps climbing. Recently it was about $2.5 million. The person with $1 million looks up at the person with $2.5 and feels poor. The one with $2.5 looks at the 10 and feels poor. The goalposts don't just move. They sprint away from you at the exact speed you approach them. Your brain adjusts to every new level in about a month, then quietly demands the next one. That's the trap sitting underneath all three levels, the one nobody escapes by accident. So let me hand you something better than a number to chase. The point of seeing these levels clearly isn't to make you feel behind, it's the opposite. It's to let you watch the machine actually work, charging the rich less and the rest of us more, so you can stop measuring your entire worth against lines that were never built to make you feel like you'd arrived. The first 100 grand is the realest, the hardest, and the one almost entirely within your control. Obsess over that one. Everything after it is mostly the system being the system, and now you can see it happening instead of just feeling vaguely cheated by it. Here's the truth I'd want a friend to tell me. The people who actually win this game aren't the ones who climb the fastest. They're the ones who decide on purpose what enough means for them, before the moving goalposts get to decide it for them. You can cross every one of these lines and still be miserable. You can also sit comfortably between them and build a life that the strangers, the bankers, and the crabs in the bucket can't touch. Pick your number. Make it yours. And this is the genuinely radical part, actually stop when you reach it. And that teller from the very beginning, the one who learns your name, here's the secret nobody says out loud. They were never really reacting to you, they were reacting to the number on the screen. The entire trick to this whole thing is making sure you never make that same mistake about yourself. If this gave you a new way to see where you stand, do me a favor and subscribe, because the next thing we're breaking down is the financial trap that hits the moment your net worth starts to grow, the one that quietly eats the gains you worked so hard for. I'll see you in that one.